Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to introduce to you all MK Ultra, ritual abuse, and human trafficking survivor and whistleblower, survivor and anti-child abuse advocate, YouTube content creator, absolute warrior, and one of the most selfless servant leaders and warriors I've had the honor of meeting on my podcasting journey, Caitlin, or as she is commonly called by people who know her on an everyday basis, Katy. I met Katy on Twitter after a mind-blowing and vulnerable post she wrote whistleblowing her experiences in MK Ultra as the daughter of an MK Ultra mind control programmer went viral and was seen by over 2 million people. And as her whistleblower post was being circulated around Twitter, I was connected to Katy through mutual followers, and it was then that we became fast friends. I developed an immediate admiration for Katy because I not only was inspired by her sheer courage and will, but I also took notice that most of what she spent her time doing online was advocating for others. If a survivor is getting bullied, she is the first one to step in and draw a line in the sand. And she's the first to advocate for unity and peace within the community, which is amazing considering what she survived. Katy was born in Northridge, California, and as I mentioned, she was the daughter of an MK Ultra mind control programmer, technician, and Vietnam veteran audio operator father who was and or is possibly involved in the CIA and is heavily involved in the occult. And her mother was a narcissist who was already separated from her father when she was born. It wouldn't be until later in life when Katy would remember what happened to her, set off on a healing journey, find love in unexpected places, and decide to become a public whistleblower. What is most special about Katy coming on today is that this will be the first time she has spoken out in full about her testimony. When I think about Katy, I'm reminded of a quote said by past podcast guest Katie Olahe, where she said, "It feels like they honed a really sharp weapon, and now it's pointed at them." What Katy's abusers didn't anticipate was that she would rise above all the time, energy, and effort they devoted into keeping her quiet and compliant, and that she would grow up to use her voice to speak loudly about things we were never supposed to hear. Her abusers never anticipated she would speak so powerfully that it would put a dent in the universe. Her abusers also never anticipated her light would shine a light on all the darkness. What they did do was underestimate a little girl who was destined to grow into a hero. And I know little Katy is beaming at big Katy sitting here before you today, who is here to expose and shine a bright light on what happened to her as a young child. Katy's story is a piece to the puzzle, and I ask you all to put whatever you're doing away and give this hero and warrior your full attention as she takes us down a rabbit hole of epic proportions. Before I finish introducing today's guest, I wanted to give just a couple reminders and updates. If you'd like to be on the podcast as a guest or share any information privately with me, you can email me at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com. You can also use this email if you'd like to be a part of my new book series featuring written survivor testimonies, and you can find the video with all the details on how to submit your testimony on any of my podcast channels. And lastly, I'd love your support on Substack, where I've taken up investigative journalism as an outlet for me to share about the podcast, my guests, and advocacy work, and you can subscribe to me there at www.emmacatherine.substack.com. All my links are in the show notes, and I'd love your support across all platforms, you guys. Thank you so much for caring so deeply about all the survivors and whistleblowers, and for helping to make the imagination the safest place on the internet for survivor and whistleblower disclosures. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, survivor, overcomer, and warrior, voice for the voiceless and selfless advocate, peacemaker within the survivor community, and someone I'm honored to call a friend, the one, the only, Katy. Katy, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. I have been so impressed with your journey. I know that we've only met recently, but the moment I met you, I was like, this girl's my soul sister. Like, she's so courageous and she's everything that I could ever wish to be, in my own advocacy work. And I've taken so much inspiration from you. And I think that you're going to be a huge piece of the puzzle. I know that your story weaves in and out of so many elements of society. And I know that you have quite a story from, the beginning of your life and even beforehand. So why don't we start by going back there and talk about your family life before you were here? What did your ancestors do? Maybe grandparents? When did this abuse start generationally in your family, if it was generational? And how did this family unit, in a sense, end up coming together?
So it's kind of crazy how it all started because I found out bits and pieces from extended family. Um, the abuse on on my mom's side, my grandfather taught English in Japan, and my grandma was a school psychologist. And on my dad's side, I honestly don't know what his parents did, but I know that his mom was allegedly like super abusive. Apparently, like locked him in the basement for days at a time, and like yeah, and it was like hit the kids with frying pans, and um, but also apparently he grew up on a gypsy caravan, so they were like traveling a lot at the same time. Um, I'm not sure if like I honestly have no idea if the occult stuff was I really feel like he got into it himself. Like somehow either it was something to do with like the gypsy caravan and they practiced things like that, or like yeah, I'm kind of unclear on how he got into it. I know that when he turned 18, he joined the military because he wanted um well, I guess he just wanted to join. And he was really good with radios. He was a radio operator for the Air Force and went to Vietnam and worked with radios, or radio technology. Um, and aside from that, like I don't on my mom's side, there wasn't abuse. I mean, there was a lot of like narcissistic tendencies and a lot of like mental illness and like a lot of stuff like that, but I'm not sure. Like on that side, it was like a completely different world. Um, but yeah, I think it just seemed like he was the sole one out of his family that took this path, which is, but I mean, honestly, I honestly don't know though.
How did your parents meet?
Um, that's a funny story. They actually met through newspaper dating ads.
Stop. It's like the first Tinder that ever existed.
Yep, yep. They met through there, and
Wow.
it was weird because they dated for a little bit. My mom said she wanted to have another kid. She had already had my brother. Well, I have brothers and sisters, or it's a sister on my dad's side, but the one I consider my brother is a half brother that my mom had, and he was 8 years old by the time she had me. Um, and he, oh, that's a whole other thing. But when she dated my dad and met him and she got pregnant, she said there were like warning signs. She said he was dangerous. There was lots of things she saw before I was even born, but um, when I was born, they were split up. They tried reconciling for a few months after I was born, but that didn't work out. Um, and then they broke up again. So, yeah.
Wow. And so what happened with you and your siblings? Were you guys together, or where did you end up parent-wise whenever that split happened?
Um, well, my half brother had a different dad. So he was gone half the week already at his dad's house. And then the other siblings, I didn't know I had a sister on my dad's side until I was 9, which was kind of bizarre. Um, and then I knew I had 2 half brothers, but they were all adults. So like I didn't even meet them until I met them when I was older.
Gotcha. Wow, that's so much to go through at such a tiny age. That had to have been, I know you said your mother was a narcissist, but that's always tough to, have to make that decision and to split from somebody and, take on being a single mom in a sense. So that's wild. So
Mhm.
your life, when did and how did the abuse start?
Um, so I remember it starting when I was very, very little. Like the memories I have start around 2.5 is when I really have memories of abuse. But based on some personal journals that my stepmom had found, I guess in boxes and stuff, it's very clear that it started when I was an infant. Um, so he had been doing it from the beginning. Um, he was trying to have his own, he was trying to create a wife for himself by way of having a daughter. Um, but essentially I mean, it's been like since out, out the gate that it started.
Oh my goodness. And so you think that he had ties to the CIA?
Yeah, so that was a recent discovery. It would make a lot of sense, and his family. So the family on, okay, I guess it's just, I'll just say how I got in contact with his family, because growing up, I was like, I would ask about them. I was curious, like, why don't I ever see your parents or my grandparents on that side or my cousins or whatever? And he was always like, oh, I don't talk to them. I don't talk to them. But like he very much, I mean, he did. I found out much later, um, or later on. But when I was on MySpace as a teenager, I decided that I wanted to find my brothers, my 2 half brothers from my dad's previous marriage. And so there was like, I don't know if you remember on MySpace, there was like a lost persons section.
Oh,
Like you
yes.
could like make a post or something. So I had made a post like, I'm looking for my brothers, here are their names, like, you know, I have no idea how else to look for them. And then like a month later, I got a message from a cousin, and she's like, I was looking for them too, but I came across your post. It was
What?
like crazy. Yeah. Like she just randomly found me on MySpace. And she sent me like pictures in the mail. Because I wasn't even that old. I think I was like 15 or 16. And she sent me like pictures like of the family and like my grandparents and all this stuff. And like I found out all this information. I was connected to other cousins. So um that's how I got in contact with them. And then um it I still talk to them a lot. But I lost where I was. So with the my gosh, I'm blanking.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
you
good.
asked me about the CIA thing.
Yeah.
So apparently my dad's brother and some other family members were like convinced that he was CIA because of like the things he would kind of mention, but he was super secretive about them. Um, and just based on the military history and the things he was involved in, like I think it's a definite possibility. Um, Especially since family members now, like that still talk to him, say that he will only communicate via phone call or proton mail because he's just like super, super secretive about all of it. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And so he basically, like you said, it appears that his family before him, his parents and grandparents, and there may have been normal family dysfunction, but it wasn't the MK Ultra multi-generational incest-based type abuse that you know of. This was him sort of going rogue somehow from however he got in it. He somehow got connected to or coerced into whatever it was. He somehow got involved with the occult and started to go down a path of becoming a programmer, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of because he knew way too much. That's the thing that like always gets me is that he knew so much and I mean, not everything he did failed. Not everything he did was just him trying and throwing things at the wall to stick. There were things that worked. There were other people involved. Um, he would bring me places where there were other men that seemed much more organized and knowledgeable than he was. But it's like, I honestly, it just seems like he knew too much to be someone who just found this stuff and joined it. But like somehow, I guess I mean, I don't know enough about his parents or his lineage because he's been so secretive with everyone. And his died a while ago, and his sister died a while ago. So uh, it's kind of like a fuzzy gray area because how did he know so much? But then also, no one else in the family was involved. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is really weird. Unless, they're mind controlled too and don't remember. But yeah, that definitely leaves a lot to be desired. And especially if you don't have people you can reach out to in his life, siblings or somebody that would maybe know. That's really incredible what you've been able to unearth despite, not having a lot to work with, even on both sides of your family in a sense.
Yeah, it's weird. Actually, as of yesterday, I just found out from a cousin I have that the same cousin actually that found me, apparently that she just found out that my brother had half siblings and she didn't know that either. So there might be people out there, but I have no idea who they are or where they might be or anything.
Wow. That'd be interesting if sort of like how it happened on MySpace serendipitously, if just sort of putting that out there, you ended up having somebody that could connect some dots for you, in modern day technology, the Twitter version instead of MySpace.
Yes, exactly. That would be really cool. That would be cool.
And so your father, it sounds like, had government ties. I mean, which would make a lot of sense, especially being in the military too. Obviously, right there is a government tie in and of itself. So how did I'm guessing it was him that placed you in these programs. What was that? When did that happen? In a sense, I know you said the abuse on his side started whenever you were very young. When did the
Mhm.
MK Ultra aspect start where and were you taken to different locations or where did this occur at?
So it occurred from as early as I can remember. He did it at home because, like, at his house, it was just isolation. I mean, we would go to the grocery store sometimes, and that was about it. Like, I didn't have friends over. I didn't really want my friends to go over. Um, it was just like my entire existence at his house was very structured, and he had built in basically like sexual abuse and torture and like these things he would do into like nightly routines, like I don't want to go into details about it, but it was part of just like the structure of things. um he would have me play board games for the programming, and use frequencies. He was really good with like ham radio, and he would use um like cassette tapes. He would use like and record them or play them. He had the gigantic um like stereo systems that seemed like, because like it was like the mid 90s, it seemed, or like it was the 90s, so it seemed like he had a lot more than most people had in their house at that time. um he had, I mean, the abuse was built into my life there. There was a room that he called the pink room that I've sorry, sometimes it's hard to so the house had 3 bedrooms, and on the other side of the house, opposite of where the bedrooms were, there was like a room he called the pink room, and it was painted pink, and it had pink carpet, and it had like a wall full of just like TVs, like those old boxy TVs and VCRs. He had several computers lined up. Um, and he had a closet in there that was just full of like blank cassettes and blank VCR tapes. Um, so he utilized all of that. He would record, he would use his radios to create frequencies. Um, he used media, he used um, terror. He would there were rituals he would do where he would torture animals and make me watch. Um, he would make me one of the things, for example, um, he got a litter of kittens and he told me I could save one of them. Um, and it turned out that he let me keep 2 of them, because I asked, well, what if I can take one to mom's house? And he's like, fine, whatever, you can pick 2, but then the rest he killed. Um, and then he tried to mind, he basically like, it was so traumatizing, it wasn't difficult for him to like convince me that he had dropped them off at a shelter, even though like I always kind of remembered deep down what he had actually done. Um, and that's the type of like psychological torture he was a big fan of. Um, and the pink room was like color programming. He um utilized that for various methods. I wasn't allowed in the pink room when we weren't doing programming. I don't really know what he called it, because he didn't call it programming, but this was just like normal stuff, but then I would repress the memory after. Um, the abuse continued until I was about 10. Um, there's like a lot to it because it was at his house. Like it was almost like, I've seen the term used like bringing it home, like people mentioning on X or whatever, talking about things like these people learn these methods, they learn how to do these things, and then they take it home to their families and use it on their families. And that's basically what he did. It was um the places he would bring me to, starting when I was really little, were he would take me to some houses. He would drop me off usually. Um, there was a house that I never forgot the memory of where he would drop me off and there were men everywhere and they would take me outside of or into a different room, and then I would black out. But like, it's pretty clear what's about to happen when you're in that situation. And then when I would be brought back into this main room, I was given a toy, like what I now realize was like positive reinforcement, like behavior modification. You have to have a reinforcement, like if there's something negative, like you have to have a positive after for it to really have the effect you want it to. And that's essentially what I think they were doing with me. The mansion parties were much more structured. Those memories were like that was some real dark shit. But there were also the trips to Disneyland, and to the boat. We just referred to it as the boat. It was the sailboat. He had his own sailboat, and it was at the docks at a marina in Long Beach. And we would go there some weekends, and a lot of sexual abuse would happen there. A lot of going out into the water with, and he would say weird things, do weird things while psychologically torturing me. He would take me to Disneyland, and Disneyland Hotel was where there would be a lot of other men. I was taken to Las Vegas a few times a year for a while as like a vacation. It wasn't a vacation, but that's what he told my mom. And a lot of stuff happened there. So it was like kind of just continuous for like a very long period of time. So
Oh,
yeah.
you validated a lot. There's been so many people that have come forward, and it's unbelievable to a lot of people to think that the happiest place on earth, somewhere like Disneyland, could be complicit in doing things that are so horrific, but at the same time, what better place to be able to hide crimes against children than somewhere that is like every child's dream? Like the whole park is filled with children. It's not something that should be a surprise to any of us. Like, why wouldn't a predator build a child's, dreamscape for them to look forward to coming to all the time, And it's absolutely horrifying how many people have been pushed through there and have been abused, whether it was at the park itself, in surrounding areas connected to it, or just other entities that belong to Disney, and team members or people affiliated with the company, partaking in all of this.
Hmm. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't remember anything specific happening in the park, but I do know that my dad had a certain way of doing everything. And at his house, I didn't dare say anything against his word, which is completely opposite of how I was at my mom's house. But we had to go on the same rides religiously every time we went. It's a Small World, Thunder Mountain Railroad, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Haunted Mansion. And I don't know if there was like a reason for that. I know that there's a lot of talk about It's a Small World and some of the other rides, but the stuff that happened to me that I remember was in the hotel. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so horrific, to especially to a kid because, they invert everything. So I'm sure on one end they're telling you that this is something cool that you get to do or that you're going to Disneyland, and then they're subjecting you to such horrors while you're there.
Mm-hmm. It's I mean, I kind of learned from an early age that if my dad said something was a certain way, that it was automatically a lie, or it's probably a lie. So Yeah, it was the unfortunate reality of my childhood.
If you don't want to go too deep into their stories, you don't have to, but did you have siblings that were used, or was it just you and your family, or how did that work once that started being your life whenever you were young? Was that something he was doing to all of his kids?
Well, his other kids were already adults. Um, it's really difficult with that because I was introduced to my half sister. Um, her name is Roxanne. I don't care if she sees this. Um, and she had 3 kids. Um, I was like 9 years old when I met her, and I have no idea what's up with her. She always kind of seemed off. Um, the whole I don't know anything about her other than that. She still talks to my dad. He likes to pretend that she's his only child these days, apparently. So yeah, like when he talks about having kids, like none of the rest of us exist. It's just her. So I'm assuming that he did a lot to her and she's still like very much under his control. Um, and my 2 half brothers, one of them, when I finally got a hold of him, he like hung up on me and was like, he was like, I want nothing to do with anything involving that man. Like, I am not going to talk to you. And he hung up on me and blocked me. And like, my other brother lives in Arizona, and I met him once, and he hates our father. Um, I know that there was a lot of abuse. I was told it was physical, but I don't know what else went on. Um, I recently reached back out to him and told him just like the smallest details about what our dad did to me, and he just stopped responding. So I honestly have no idea what any of them are about or what they went through, because like they just do not want to talk about it. Like they refuse to visit that. Um, the brother that's an alcoholic, his name is Chris. Um, I don't know if he's ever recovered. I don't know if he's still an alcoholic. His wife called me back to apologize after he blocked me. Like she unblocked me and called me. And she's like, listen, he's constantly drunk. Like he's falling apart. And this was like years ago. Like he just can't handle like anything. So I just I'm kind of like the lone one out of all the children my dad has created that is like saying something. The rest of them are either like so dysfunctional and mentally broken because of him, which I get, that they just want nothing to do with it, or they are just like, no.
Just can't face it.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's so difficult. And that had to have been like really hard for you realizing all of this and then being like, oh, like I know people that maybe I can reach out to who are going to support me or who went through the same thing. And then it's sort of like, talking to a wall in a sense where everybody's like, no, like there's nothing weird on my end or, so that's amazing that you
Hmm.
were able to overcome that when everybody else in your family seems to still be underneath that spell.
Yep. I mean, he apparently, according to that side of the family, like no one wants, so people seem to tend to forget like about him after he stops being around them, which I think has to be some sort of mind control that he's doing on people, or he's got something he's doing. Um, or they just block it out and pretend like he didn't exist. Like, I mean, it's difficult because there are people out there that know things. I know that there are people out there who know things, but like they either refuse to talk about it, they don't want to approach it, or they're cowards. But either any of those things, it's just a sad reality. And it's like, I know my reality. I've known these things have happened. And it's like, well, if my own family members, aren't going to act like family members, I'm used to that. So like, I'm going to proceed anyways. So yeah.
Wow. And so how did that relationship dynamic after your parents split up and going through all this at your father's house? I know your mom was a narcissist, but did you ever disclose to her? I know that you were dissociating during this, so I know it wasn't, in the front of your memory whenever you'd be around her. But did you ever have any awareness of this or try to tell her, like resist going to your dad's house? Or did she ever notice any bruising or anything? Like how did that work switching between parents?
This is the part that I think makes me the angriest. My mom's still alive and she's currently got cancer that spread to her spine. And um, I I don't like that woman. She is the literal worst because all these things happened when I was little that she never told me about. So for this part of the story, I have to fast forward to when I was 16 and I've always had these little fragmented memories, like these little bits and pieces, like um of like the Disneyland hotel, like little fractured memories, or like the events at Las Vegas, or like things that happened in the pink room at my dad's house, or like things like that. But when I was 16, um, I started really remembering, and I was out to dinner with my parents. Or when I say my parents, I mean my mom and my stepdad. Um, and I told her, I said, I have something to tell you, and like it might be upsetting, but you know, I think my dad like sexually abused me. And her reaction, which tells you all you need to know about her, was, I knew it. And I was like, you what? Like, I thought I was giving some, like, I was dropping some bomb, but her response was, I knew it. And it was like, are you serious? Like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, all this stuff happened when you were little. Like, I had all these medical issues when I was really little where they thought I was allergic to underwear or a certain type of underwear, those types of problems. I was always constantly at the doctor's office. I had lots of issues. Um, they couldn't figure out what was going on. So they said, like, just don't let her wear colored underwear, which makes no sense. Like, or like, don't wear this fabric or something. Um, and I guess my dad was started dating a minister when I was around like 5 or 6, a female minister. And she was concerned about the drawings I was making in Sunday school. Um, because when he was dating her, he wanted to look good. So we went to church on Sundays. And I guess the drawings were alarming. I don't know what they were. So she called my mom without my dad knowing and told her. So my mom took me to the pediatrician, and this was what she told me, because I had no idea this happened, or I had no memory of it. Because she said she didn't tell me at the time why we were going to the pediatrician. The pediatrician couldn't tell if anything was happening. Um, the minister at the time who contacted my mom thought it was my stepdad, and it was not my stepdad. Um, but the thing is, when we left the pediatrician's office, she said to me, it was the strangest thing. We walked outside of the doctor's office, and there your dad was, just sitting in his car right outside the doctor's office, just watching. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, how did you, like, and I'm like, how did he even know we were there? And she's like, well, I mentioned, I think I might have mentioned something to him about it, but like, he like was in his work clothes, like he had left work, and he worked at Fox News, which is in downtown LA, which was like, you might as well give up your work day if you live in downtown LA and you have to leave and fight traffic to get to the San Fernando Valley, which was where I lived. So like, he made a point to leave work and be out there, and apparently he just looked at us walk out and he just drove away and didn't say a word. And then last year, when she came back from California for getting treatment from chemotherapy, she she just says shit that just is like, oh my God. She told me, she says shit and she thinks it's like not a big deal that she's telling me these things. Like, she's like, yeah, your dad always treated you like more of a girlfriend than a daughter. And like, your dad like would dress you up and take you to these parties. And like, it was always so weird. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, like that was basically like
Like, and you
my
never
face.
said anything or like took me out of that or like,
Yeah, I know. And she's like, but her defense has always been like, well, you were always so defensive of him. You were always so defensive of him. And it's like, and I was when I was little, like, if someone said something bad about my dad at my mom's house, I would like scream and yell and get really angry. But after a lot of therapy, like the therapist, like I had a therapist help me discover that like that was more of like the secret. Like, I was protecting the secret. Like, I needed that to stay at my dad's house. Like, I needed it to stay at my dad's house to stay sane. So like, any like mention of him at all would just kind of set me off. Um, Even though it wasn't safe at my mom's house either, emotionally, because she's crazy, but like actually crazy. But there were so many signs. And like last year, when this whole thing was happening and she was talking to me, she's like, she gets into these moods where she gets very upset and she starts being like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I should have done something. And it's like, it's okay, I guess. Like, I don't know how to communicate with you about these things. Um, but she's like, no, 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 but like, I should have known, because one time when you were 4 years old and I was driving you over there, you got angry at me for something. And you said to me, well, my dad says what happens at his house stays at his house. And she was like, I should have known. Like, I tried to turn around the car or turn the car around, but like, you insisted not to. And like, because I don't know, I was 4, I don't really know. I'm pretty sure I was terrified that I mean, I thought I was going to get in trouble probably. And it was like all these things, all these signs, and that whole time growing up, like there were all these weird things like that, and I just feel like she had to be willfully ignorant, and I don't think she ever liked me as a person. I mean, the that's the only conclusion. I mean, aside from, I mean, her deal is like a whole other deal with the way she has always treated me and spoken to me and everything. But like, there were signs, um, medically, emotionally, situationally, there were signs, but they were just ignored. So that's basically what that was like.
Oh my gosh. And so of course, like, why would you even try to speak up after a while, knowing that, like, the response is almost selfish. Your mom was constantly like thinking about herself, or like kind of like gaslighting you in a way. Which is
Hmm.
really sad. Instead of like being a parent and like trusting her intuition, she's blaming a 4-year-old for exclaiming to turn around, probably out of a trauma response, instead of saying, well, wait, I'm just gonna, do what my intuition tells me because I'm the mother and I want to keep my child safe, and it's sad. I think a lot of, mothers, whether or not they're narcissistic or programmed, I think that there's just a lot of like loss of being connected to our own souls and hearts and intuitions in this world now. And it's really sad because you see children being eaten up by all the predators in every way, and it's really sad that these parents can't like look at a child and just like want to protect them with everything, and so but I mean, I've heard that from so many survivors that whenever they're put in situations where they can say whistleblow as a child, there's so much programming done to keep you quiet, like that's ingrained in you from the get-go. Like before you can even speak, they're trying to train you on repressing everything and, fracturing and hiding and repressing, and so I think that's also why this is so important for society to realize, because, you can't always just look at a child and know exactly what's going on in their life. They could dress really well. They could be really smart. They could be the best, cheerleader or soccer player, and behind the scenes, they could be going through something really horrific, and
Hmm.
not have any safety in their life, like how you didn't. You were kind of had to pick the best of two evils, in a sense of like it was safer at mom's house, even though I was still underneath sort of a narcissistic household in a sense.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I mean, it was hell there. Um, my mom like loved, she very, from a very early age, I noticed that she would latch on to anything negative said about me by other adults, like babysitters or school teachers or whatever, and dismiss anything positive. And it became this like weird, sick thing I witnessed where she was like making me out to be this like very poorly behaved, very damaged child, um, to everyone else. So, like at her house, I think I spent the majority of my time either hiding out in my room or trying to have some sort of validation in any aspect of my life. It was just, it was horrific. And the other adults around believed her because, I mean, who would expect, you don't use, I mean, I guess these days I know better, but like, especially back then, if a parent says something, people believe the parent. And it was like a very powerless situation because it's like, I, there were things I probably could have said to her, but like, I didn't even trust her enough to rely on her as a very small child. Um, so it was just, it felt safer just keeping the status quo no matter what, even if I didn't remember what was going on. Um, and I would, it got to a point where I really resisted going over to my dad's house, and I would ask her for help. I would ask her, like, can you call my dad and tell him, I'm sick or something? And she'd say things like, well, I'm not lying for you. You call him. I'm not doing that. You call him. And it'd be like, never mind, like I'll go over, you know? Um, there was a time like I did call her from my dad. There was a really horrific, I mean, it was all horrific, but like extra horrific night when I was like 9 years old. And I snuck out of my room, which was terrifying because that man seemed to know where I was. Like the second I like opened an eye, like he was like there. Um, and I snuck out and I went into the pink room where the phone was, and I called my mom, and it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I called her sobbing and like just begging, like, please come pick me up. Please come pick me up. And she was like, it's the middle of the night. I'm not coming to get you. This is your time at your dad's house. And I was like, please, please come pick me up. And she was just like, stop being dramatic. Go back to sleep. I'm sleeping. And she like hung up the phone. And that was a memory I've never forgotten. And she she just she is who she is, I guess.
She abandoned you in your time of need.
Pretty much always. Pretty much always. So,
So you mentioned she got remarried. Did your father too? And how did that, if that was the case on both sides, how did that impact your situation?
um, so she remarried my stepdad, or not remarried, sorry. She married my stepdad when I was 4. Um, and he was okay. I mean, he wasn't the greatest person, but he was very much an adult from a time where like autism and um things like that were just not talked about or diagnosed. Um so was he was very autistic, high functioning, but like he had his routines. The only thing that made sense to him was the reality he knew. He went, he came home from work, went into his office, did stuff on the computer, and then went to bed. And like, I don't think I could, I mean, if I had told him, I mean, he was just not, he was like not an adult that would, I felt like was a functional, I don't even know how to describe it. He was just emotionally not, he was like barely surviving himself and like was so rigid and narrow-minded that like he wasn't there for me either. He was just as absent in a very different way because like his focus was on his routine, his focus was on this and this and this, and it was that. It was so it was he was just basically another adult that, you know, he was kind of more like floating around than anything. Um, so I guess it didn't really change much when it came to like being at my mom's house. I mean, it did a little bit, but not really. Um, and he passed away last year from Alzheimer's. But my dad, when I was 10, um, and then this was like kind of like the post I made recently. When I was 10, like everything kind of fell apart. Um, I started mentally realizing outside of my dad's house what he had been doing to me and realizing that I had a choice. Um, because not that I had a choice, but like I remember being at my mom's house and like I started like putting these things together. Like there was some weird thing that happened and I started figuring it out and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to do that though. Like I'm over here. If I'm over here, does that mean like I necessarily have to go back? But that's a whole other thing. But when I started rebelling and like not like what he was trying to do to me my whole life wasn't working out and I started being older, I started um not being as like submissive and I stopped being as just easygoing with what he wanted. um he There was like a final death blow to like my psyche that he basically tried to do. And I fell apart. I ended up in UCLA's neuropsychiatric unit for 2 weeks. And then before that, during this year of time, he had started dating Mena Suvari's mom, and she became my stepmom. She
Do you mind if while you're talking about
Sure.
this part, if I bring up that Twitter post and sort of like flow through your post and the photos as you're talking about this?
Oh no, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. Keep going.
Okay. Um, so like so when he started dating her, um, the things going on at his house slowed down. Like I stopped being as involved with things. He stopped taking me out as much. He was dating Mena Savari's mom. Um, I was invited, that picture's from the Sugar and Spice movie premiere, and I was invited to, and I walked the red carpet. Um, he was just all of a sudden very involved in can't her I call her Candy, but her name is Candace. Um, they were all very involved. Mena came over sometimes. I met Mena many times. That picture was before Candy and my dad got married, and before she moved out of that apartment into his house. Um, and we were making a birthday cake for my dad's birthday. Um,
You are
and it
so
was
cute,
exciting.
by the way. You are so darling. Like this girl is so proud of you today. She is.
She is. I bet she is. It's crazy.
So cute.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a fun day. It was like I was so excited because like I had this well, she wasn't my stepmom yet, but I had this like mom, um, and someone who I felt like was an older sister because um because Mena was very, very kind to me. She was super sweet to me, and she treated me like a person. And that's my dad in that picture blowing out candles. Um, and Mena's mom, who became my stepmom, um, was, and that's at my dad's house. um, she became like a glimmer of hope. She became like this buffer. So when I still would go over to my dad's house, but Candy became like a buffer. She felt like a safe person when I went to my dad's house, and he made it very difficult for me to even talk to her without him being in the room. But um, she was very nice. She was and after I left the neuropsychiatric hospital, I left on a crap ton of medicine, like so much psychiatric medicine, and they sent me off with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, which didn't make sense because I've found all my old hospital documents, and I'm looking through, and it's just on the daily reports, it's very much like they clearly had no idea what was wrong. They clearly they're like, she seems depressed. She wants to go home, complains of being here, wants to go home. But I have never had any symptoms of bipolar. I did not have symptoms of bipolar at the time. And I was put on a massive amount of medication, including lithium and a bunch of other things. And it's just like I was like numb to the world. And if I have pictures of when I started 6th grade and I was on all these medications, and it's like I looked like a zombie, and I felt like, I mean, I felt like one. Um, but like the relationship with my stepmom had become like this thing I clung on to for like life, because one day, because she used to be a psychiatric nurse before she retired, and one day she sat down with me in the pink room, which was no longer called the pink room after she moved in. And she said, how do you feel being on all these medicines? And like I have never forgotten that moment, because like it was the first time an adult had acknowledged me as a human being. um and it's just difficult, um because then eventually after that she kind of just moved. I guess things got crazy after the first few years of their relationship. um I stopped going over even more. It was a lot less frequent. um they moved to Alabama, and then I went to visit for a few years for like a few weeks at a time, and then I stopped going, because she reached out to me to tell me that they were getting a divorce because he was abusive, and that divorce lasted a few years because he drug it out. And um she like befriended the entire sheriff's department in order to protect herself, basically, because they always had to come out because he was like trying to like blow up the house and like messed with the electrical wiring under the house to try to kill her, and like this whole thing. So that kind of blew up. Then she continued to talk to me she would call me for a little, like every month or so for like a year. And she told me all of this information. She said, your dad refused to throw away the mattress you grew up on when we moved to Alabama, the one he had like SA'd me on for like my entire childhood, refused to throw it out, even though it was filthy. Um, insisted on taking it with them to Alabama. She had all these journals and notebooks that he like would document in about like the abuse, and describing how like he was trying to make a wife. Um, she confirmed a lot of things, and then she just disappeared. And I tried reaching out to her a few times over the years, and she just doesn't want to talk about it. So,
Wow. You had so much going on, whether you're at your father's house or your mom's house, there were so many moving parts, so many different dynamics of who they were, from different
mhm.
types of abuse to different sort of personality types, but all of it just being so like corrosive to a child, like you had to really parent yourself in these instances, and like the moments that you were given clarity of love through, these little glimmers of your dad dating somebody and she had a daughter that you bonded with, and she was really kind to you. It's like he would sabotage everything to where it was all just taken away from you.
Yeah, it was constant. And like I get Mena was a celebrity and is a celebrity, but like that was the hardest part, is that like she was untouchable out like the relation. I was very aware that like once their relationship ended, like there was going to be no relationship with Mena, and there was never going to be like the relationship I was hoping it would be, like a sister type relationship as a kid. um I mean, it was just unattainable in general. I was like barely allowed to take pictures with her because Candy was like neurotic about it. um I wasn't allowed to like really talk about, like, she didn't want me telling people. I mean, I told people anyways. I mean, I was a kid and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to a movie premiere and walk the red carpet. Like I got like the sugar and spice mask from the, like, the the ones they wear in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and like it was ridiculous. Like I wore it to school the next day. I was so excited for like I was like such a dork, but
That's so cute.
um she yeah, I mean, it was like a really big wound, and like it's definitely part of the story, my story. It's been it's really hard to talk about because Mina's a celebrity, um, but she was my stepsister, and she meant a lot more to me than just being a celebrity. Like she used to make jewelry and she like made me a pair of earrings that I still have. Like I used my sewing machine. Used to make little things and I made her a little jewelry pouch and like it was like really sweet, but then I was just suddenly discarded. She never reached out to me again. Um, which again, I kind of understand because you're a celebrity, but and then Candy stopped reaching out to me. She like kind of discarded me along with my dad, which I can't blame them, but like at the same time it sucked. And that was kind of like essentially the death blow to my ability to trust anyone for a very, very long time. But it was messed up.
So understandable. That's so sad. It's like kids are so vulnerable and like we just want to be loved whenever we're little, and like you cling on to those people who give that to you and it's scary when it's not consistent anymore and it disappears. That can be really, really scary. How did your dad treat Mina? Was he ever abusive to her or did you ever see her being abused in any type of way?
Um, well, when I knew her, she was married to her um he's her ex-husband now, but the director Robert Brinkman, who was like ridiculously older than she was. Um, and my dad treated her, I guess, like fine. Not like he seemed nice, but there were some times that I was supposed to be in my room when they were having adult conversations. And I'm trying to think like how much I should say because
Of course.
I
Sure.
saw Mena. Oh, sorry. Um, the I saw things that I was definitely not supposed to see as far as, well, I guess fuck it. Um, between her and Robert Brinkman. Um, like my father sitting next to Robert Brinkman in the living room and talking like shop talk, but like it was weird. Like it was not normal in their mood, their like demeanors, their like the looks on their faces, their tones completely different. Like at dinner when everyone was out there and everyone was like talking and having fun, like they seemed like different people. Though Robert Brinkman always seemed like a jerk. Um, but they were like talking and Mina was behaving in a way that was not normal. Um, I don't know if she remembers, but I remember seeing it. Um, and she locked eyes with me because I was like peering around there was like a hallway with a door that you go through, and then like if you look around, like you could see the living room. And like I kind of like was looking and she like kind of was doing what she was doing and she was like and she kind of like looked and then like I made eye contact with her and then I like turned around and went back in my room and she I guess continued what she was doing. um so I definitely think that she was being I think she was mind controlled. I think she was programmed. I think she had commands, and I think that they were being used on her. And I know that's like a big thing to say, but like I saw it. And she wrote a book, I guess, not too long ago about like, I didn't read it, but like apparently about like abuse and like what seems like she's talking about being handled. Like she's talked about these things, like she wrote a book on it. Um, so like I'm sure there was a lot more to her story that I don't know if she wrote it in the book or not, but like that was definitely something I witnessed. And like I'm still friends with um her brother, um is who was my stepbrother. Like we're friends on Facebook. Like I'm friends with his ex-wife, who was just his girlfriend when I knew her, and then they got married. We still talk on occasion, and um they told me that she was on so many drugs that like she doesn't even remember like one of her weddings, or like staying at their house after like flying back from Paris from like the wedding to the one guy she married. So there was a lot of that, but so I don't know if she even would remember that. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know for me, like when I first started learning about all of this, I feel like one of the traps that we get sucked into is the celebrity trap. And we are posting photos of them doing symbolism or having this icon on their shirt. And it's like I've learned that when we do that, like we're exploiting people, like if you were to have sent me a photo of you and like your dad had put you in, say, like a shirt that had a Baphomet on it or something weird that was like occultic, like I wouldn't be like
Yeah.
posting it and like making fun of you. I would be like, this poor child, like I can't believe that this father would dress his child
Mhm.
this way, for example, right? But it's like with celebrities, we forget that they're people and that like they probably went through really horrific things, just like what you're talking about you went through. And we're sitting here like almost making fun of them, like posting photos of, them doing things that they're probably, like you said, controlled to do and cued to do and triggered to do and commanded to do, and we're not thinking about that element of that, of like, what is this person going through? Like they've probably
Mhm.
been held in captivity their whole life. And like, we're taught to idolize like slaves, and it's like really sad in a lot of ways to like actually look at it for what it is because, we're so caught up. Like, I know when I grew up, it was all the rage to idolize Hollywood and celebrities. And never did I ever think that there would be anything negative in their life. Like, I was certain that these were people that were treated like the best of the best, you know,
Yeah.
were like served a silver platter every day. And like, it's really the opposite in a lot of cases. Like, they're going through hell most of the time, and Mena's story, that's really sad that she even wrote a book about it, trying to disclose some of this. And, for you to have witnessed what you did and to have done what you did, and in your case, what was done to you, and the ways that you were able to manage that and react and like having to be your own parent in a way and like developing this hyper vigilance in every environment to like really learn where you're at. It's really sad what people go through and you'd never know just by looking at them or talking with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, honestly, like I don't know what I would think about celebrities if I hadn't had like it was only like I don't know, they were together like 4 years, 5 years, but like she was like a real person. And like, her life was very, very limited, like very limiting, I guess. Like she had to be careful about what she wore. She had to be careful about what she said. She had to be, it was like, that was like, I'm so glad I have nothing to do with that, because like, Jesus Christ. But like, ugh, um, I mean, it is difficult. I mean, I'm sure she had gone through a lot. I know that like and just talking with her mom, because her mom was like very like weirdly obsessed with Mena. Um, her mom had put her in modeling at a very young age. Um, really was like that stage mom for modeling, like pushed her into it, like very much wanted to live vicariously through Mena. There was like an entire bedroom at my dad's house that had like every magazine Mena had ever been in that like Candy had. Like, I mean, like those like plastic crates, but like full of magazines. Every time we would go to the grocery store, she would sit there and like flip through every single magazine on the stand to see if a picture of Mena was in it. Like it was it was weird. Um, so I think Mina's been kind of not allowed to be a human being for the majority of her life. So like that's a really good point. That's very true that like people kind of publicly tear them apart, but like they're just people who caught fame.
Yes. And a lot of times we're like born into it, like they were, bred to do what they're doing. We think it's an accident because they paint these background stories and they don't tell us that like, hey, this person was born into a multi-generational cult and like they were bred to be a singer or to be a stage performer and programmed from a young age to, have parts that could play different parts in movies or whatever it is. We don't know about this, so we don't even consider it, and it's really sad. Like I personally stopped posting any of those things. Like I got caught up in doing that in the beginning and I'd be like, oh, the celebrity's covering up an eye or they're doing this. And then I'm just like, there's no way like that person's not going up there and like choosing to do that. Like somebody's making them do that. And like it's probably not a nice person that's, manipulating them and controlling them. And like it's probably not a very glorious life after all, So I appreciate you like shining a light a little bit on this side of it, just from what you know. I know that you weren't totally involved with every part of her life, but you're bringing humanity into somebody that like a lot of us grew up idolizing in a way, and thinking like, oh, she's so pretty and perfect and like not considering, oh, sorry, my dog has
Oh, so cute.
so I appreciate you shining a light on that. And so they were together 4 years, you said?
Yeah, I don't know if like they were together like 4 or 5 years from like when I was 10 to about 15, so like 5 years. But then he dragged out the divorce because he's a psycho and made everything difficult. But yeah, about 5 years.
And so what happened around that time? As was that whenever you were 10 that they met, and so you were about 15 whenever they broke up? About?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was happening in your life like between then and like the relationships between your dad and your mom and like what started happening as you got older after that 10-year mark?
So after that, like there was the hospital, and then I was on all these medications, and then I graduated um fifth grade and started sixth grade. And like I was kind of like there was a lot of stuff in middle school that was just really bizarre that I honestly still can't figure out. I haven't figured out yet because I was a zombie, but I would like do really weird things. And like it's embarrassing, but I mean it is what it is. And I don't even know what was going on with me, but I would like yell out random stuff to other kids and basically like immediately made myself like the really weird kid in at this brand new school. And so like middle school was rough. I was super bullied. Like I was like slapped, punched, like thrown into mud, like from like I was in the magnet school, which was like the gifted I went to this school called Patrick Henry Middle School, and like there was a magnet school part of it for like which is like the gate program. And then there was like the normal public school part of it. I was in the magnet school, but like kids from like the non-magnet school would just like walk up. I'd never seen them before in my life, and they would just like put a foot in front of my feet and like face plant me down into the mud. Like it was just the weirdest thing. but I started having a lot of there were a lot of weird incidents that like I think there was a lot more that I don't remember. Um I had like a class project where I was at one girl's house, um and I blacked out and like came to with like all of the girls like holding the door shut to the bathroom, like in like me like just pounding on the door, like screaming for them to let me out. And the store and I had no idea what happened. And like one of them approached me at school the next week and was like trying to talk to me about it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, you don't like, what do you mean you're lying? You don't remember? You like went crazy. Like you were trying to rip the door off the hinges. Like you flipped the table. Like apparently I freaked out. I mean, I remember them being mean to me because I was bullied a lot, but some of the girls there, but like apparently I got really upset and angry and I like stood up and like flipped the table and like just was like sudden like Herculean strength, like throwing chairs across the room. And they like got me into it was like in this little guest house of this girl's house. I won't say her name, but um they had like like got me into the bathroom and like held the door shut, and I was like ripping the door off the hinges. Like I have no memory of this. So like I suspect that like during that time period after my dad there was a lot of stuff like that I don't recall. um Still I was on like a ton of medication, and um and I'm not saying like psychiatric medicine is evil or anything, because like finding the correct medication when I needed it saved my life as an adult. But my life was really horrible in middle school. I had no friends. I was apparently out of control and I wouldn't remember it. Um, then when I hit 14 and started high school, I started high school at a private Catholic school. And it was like the weirdest world ever to be in, as far as like life. And it was like a full-on Catholic school where like the school staff were nuns, like in the office. Um, it was just, it was very, very different. And a rumor was started about me a few months into the school that was like, it's like it was just weird how like everything just was with when it was out of my control, whether it was me or it was out of my control, my life was felt continuously self-sabotaged or sabotaged by other people. And I was friends with this friend group, and someone made up a lie that I had like, I don't know, hit on someone's crush or something when I wanted nothing to do with anything. And basically my social life died. And then like right after that happened, this girl enters my life who goes there, who's like the school outcast. And then I got into just like, I went from like mainly goody two shoes to like just out of control teen. And this was like right after my dad moved to Alabama. Um, like I got pulled over by the cops for joyriding in my brother's car in the middle of the night. Like I was sneaking out all the time. Um, a lot of stuff happened when I snuck out that like I'll talk about eventually, but like I don't know. Like a whole other, well, okay, there are many things that were happening when I was 14. There are some I want to talk about, but I was approached online. Let me back up. Like when I was 13 and a half, I was approached online on LiveJournal by a man who turned out to be Randy Letterman, who is a big DJ guy in the entertainment industry in the San Fernando Valley where I grew up. And he, groomed me online, like, oh, you're cute, blah, blah, blah. Like, we should hang out sometime. We should hang out sometime. And he like had DJ'd a few of my friends, like, bar and bat mitzvahs. He like somehow knew who I was. He talked about how he would use the DJing events he would do to scout children, the scout girls. And then he connected me to some other men that I ended up being trafficked to, who one of them was named Drew Kobe, and the other one, who I don't know if his real name was Mike or not, but I remember him as Mike. And I have no idea if they were connected to my dad. I do wonder if like there was some sort of like, I'm moving to Alabama, like passing of the metaphorical like control torch to someone else, and they approach me online. Like I would have no way of knowing. But that became my life. I would sneak out all the time in the middle of the night. Not just for that, but like in general, I would go to the mall and be picked up. I would be set up on dates with men that some of them worked at some pretty big name companies that are going around right now in the news. I was just like, it was a mess. Like I kind of just stopped caring about anything, and I just was like, whatever. And then half the time, like I would just go, which I'm sure was some sort of programming thing. And it's like, that's what makes me think like it's something to do with my dad, because they seem to just find me and like say certain things to me online and tell me to go somewhere, and I would do it. And yeah, I mean, that's so, and then that went out till when I was about like 15 and a half. So
Oh my gosh, I'm so
yeah.
sorry. That is horrifying. And that even, like I'd be terrified of that happening now. Like it's so easy online, but whenever you're 15, that wasn't just a couple years ago. And it's like the online landscape then too, like has changed dramatically since back whenever you were 15. And that's so terrifying to think that these platforms have predators that are almost like embedded into it. And in a lot of cases, like you said, I know you don't know if this was like an orchestrated thing, but that is very common with a lot of the people that have come on my podcast, that they go do something that they think is happen, it just so happens to be that way. It's serendipitous, it's like a coincidence or synchronicity. And then later on find out that when they actually dug into it, there was an orchestration where it was this big sort of web that was set up, to capture you. And you didn't realize, that there's all these predators like in the web and that you're actually stuck in it. You think that like you have free will and all of this, but I mean, it's so horrible how this happens and how you can be called back in ways too. I know you said that you were starting to rebel too, and, like sort of push back, especially like with your mom and stuff like that, and like they find ways to bring up those parts of you that are very loyal and that will keep going back, and servicing
Yep.
them ways that benefit them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely like, I know I've made posts where it's like, well, they thought they were doing these things, where my dad thought he was doing these things. And it's like, okay, but like realistically, he did do those things. Like realistically, like most of it worked. And it's like it was like a real thing. And I mean, I have trouble believing that they at least weren't given the knowledge. Um, I know my dad was like 09A just because of certain aspects that were very unique to that. Like he didn't say I'm 09A. Like it wasn't like something he went around like or he like would say in front of me, but like things like the star game. Um there was like, you know, those then that's what I meant like earlier by board games. Like he had me do those things. Um there were books with symbols that like were very clearly occult books. Um, and like the belief systems, like I would overhear some things and like it is, I mean, that's what 09A is. And the thing about that one is it's like they're like these you can be 09A independent of a group. And like that's what my dad did. And along with working with other people. But like I have a very hard time believing that this wasn't just me being passed along to like another group after he left. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just horrifying. It's like the people in your life that you should be able to depend on for support and love and like safety and protection, you can't, there's like nobody to turn to in those instances. Did you ever have anybody in school or whether it was friends or teachers? I know you said you sort of became an outcast because you had these trauma responses that were springing up in school. You probably didn't realize it then, but looking back, you're probably like, oh, it makes perfect sense. Like, of course I would be
Yep.
acting out in school with what I was going through at night and like before school and after school, and of course, but did you ever have anybody that ever sat down with you and said, hey, are you okay? Or did you ever have anybody try advocating for you at all or trying to impede or no?
No.
Oh my God.
Um I had I had a few very close friends when I was younger, like before teenage years. And then one of them kind of, you hit like a certain age, like around like sixth, seventh grade, and like everyone kind of changes and goes their own way, or they don't. And like that happened with her. And then my other friend, she was, I never told her anything, but she was a good friend, but like I never told her anything. She didn't notice anything was wrong. Like I'm sure she had her own stuff going on, but like there was like no one that was like, "Hey, are you okay?" It was like at my mom's house, it was like, "You need more medicine." Like another appointment with the doctor is needed. Like if I got pissed off and like yelled about something, it was like, "Are you well, maybe just need to up your medicine more." And it was like, "Please don't. Like I might die, but whatever." Because
Oh my gosh.
there's like so much medicine. Like, you know, like I think there were like 10 pills in the morning and like 10 pills at night.
Oh my
Like
God.
it was a massive amount of pills, which could not have been good for everything going on either. So
Totally.
yeah.
And then to be like, well, let's just keep adjusting the doses. Like, let's medicate the pain away, How sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
It was
goodness. And so what happened after that time? That was around you said middle school, you said, whenever a lot of that was happening, middle school and high school.
yeah. So that all, so like when I was 15 and a half-ish, like, I tried to overdose. I had been saving. So like when I started sneaking out at night, my parents would give me my medicine and I would pretend to take it because I was on some of the medicines made me really tired. So I would pretend to take it and I would put them to the side and then I would take them in the morning after I snuck back in my window. And then I would, it was really ridiculous. I slept through ninth grade. Um, but like I would like there were certain ones that like I would put aside. I don't really remember why. But when I was 15 and a half, I had this like crisis realization that the world was run by psychopaths. Everything's run by psychopaths. These people have power that I will never be able to do anything about. They basically like I was having a conversation with someone with one of these guys online and they go very quickly from like, you should talking to you normally, I should say, as they usually do, excuse me, to like just downright discard, like, which is all part of the abuse cycle or whatever, the psychological damage, like, and it was like this realization of everything sucks, or this feeling of everything sucks. Like my friends had all abandoned me at that point. It felt like, at the time, when really the one friend I had, she just got caught up in a bunch of stuff. I mean, teenage years are ridiculous anyways. Um, and I kind of understood at way too early of an age that like the people that are really in control aren't who we think are in control. Um, and some pretty profoundly awful things have been told to me over the past few years leading up to being 15 and a half. Like, I remember one guy, like, it was a hunting thing that I participated, not willingly, but I was involved in when I was 14, um, in Santa Clarita, that I haven't talked about, but I'll get there. Um, and he said, like, I was being a brat because because I was like, I'm gonna like if I'm gonna be doing this shit, like I'm at least sometimes gonna talk back, even though that was a very bad idea to try to do. Um, and I was like, fuck you, like, you know, you're not gonna get away with this forever. And he said something like he like laughed, like the most evil laugh, and he like looked at me and he was like, do you really think that we're new at this? Do you really think that there is something out there that is bigger than us or the people like us? Like, you have no idea, you stupid little girl.
Oh my God.
And it was like it felt like my entire mind shattered in that moment, because it was like I kind of like looked back throughout my whole life and I'm like, holy shit, he's right. Like nothing has ever stopped them. No one has ever done anything about it. The adults in my life have continuously dismissed me, even in the smallest things. Um, and people don't want to know about these things, or at least like it seems like people do now, but like back then, like no one wanted to know. And if I had tried to tell people like mind control or programming or like, let alone like, yeah, I was abused by my dad, but also this person and these people, and then I was trafficked, like people would have been like, you are so full of crap, like you have, like, no, there's no way. But like it's true. And then when I was 15 and a half, I took a ton of medicine that I had pills that I had saved up. I don't even know what they were, how much I took. And like, I laid on my bed and like, pretty much like as soon as I started feeling the effects, like I instantly regretted it. And like, none of my family knows this because like I was literally laying on my bed for like a day and a half, like overdosing, but not dying. And like no one checked on me. Like it was like a Friday night, I think. And like I just kind of laid there and like felt like I was half dead. I don't know. I felt like I was half dead for like a day and a half. And like no one came and checked on me, which was normal because by that point, like I wanted nothing to do with my family and they wanted nothing to do with me. So, um, and then when that finally ended, and that taught me never just just to never ever try to do that again. It's not even worth it. It's not even close to worth it. Um, I kind of like had a complete, it was like I, not even on purpose, but like because of all of it and like this like mental breaking point, like I shoved all of it down. And I told some people when I was like 16, I went to a new 15 and a half. Right after that, I started at a new school. I left the Chaminade, it was called Chaminade in California, um, and went to a smaller school that was meant for like kids who needed smaller classrooms, um, smaller groups, because I just was like, I was on academic probation. I wasn't meeting grade requirements, and I was like, screw it anyways. Like, I couldn't handle any of it. And I made some friends there. And, you know, when I was like about 17, and it was like rough, but like kind of normalized at that point. Like I kind of pushed all of the rest of it away. I still had issues with my mom. I still had, the emotional and emotional problems, and like I would lash out at people. I would like just spiral into despair and depression often. But when I was like 17, I remember talking to this really close friend I had at the time and telling him like, you know, just a few years ago, like I was like, it's like I forgot this happened, but like these like 32, 34-year-old guys would like pick me up, or I would meet up with them, or like I would go to their apartment and yada yada. And he looked at me and he was like, Katie, that's like, you need to report that shit. And I was like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, I don't even know what that was, I'm just gonna leave it alone. And he's like, those are pedophiles. Those are pedophiles. Like what? And he was shocked. And I guess like that was kind of like this like wake up call that like that totally wasn't normal. I knew it wasn't normal, but like it didn't really. And then I was just like, no, 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 it's whatever. I don't want to deal with it. And then like never talked about it again. And then I just stopped thinking about it, and I forgot for like 10 more years. Like I basically forgot it ever happened.
Oh my goodness, girl. Wow. I appreciate you sharing all of that. That's absolutely horrifying. And it again goes to show like how widespread these networks are and like how many people are involved with this. And it's like really your whole life is intertwined with people that are meant to facilitate keeping you within specific parameters, and not letting you veer off too far, and
Mhm.
man, it's just wild, like how orchestrated all of this is.
At 17, it was really bizarre, because the girl, so going back to when I was 14 at the private Catholic school, I mentioned that I had befriended this girl that was like the outcast. Her name was Erin. And she was like, I think that like everyone in the school thought she was like all of the very religious Christian and Catholic kids thought she was like the devil or like possessed because they had all gone to middle school with her. So when I became friends with her, I was like super outcasted, um, because they thought I was into whatever they thought she was into. And she's kind of like was the reason everything fell apart. Like well, I mean, it was I went along with it, but she was a really bad influence. And after getting caught shoplifting together at 14, um, at the mall, which was just ridiculous. Her mom blamed me and my mom blamed her. We were forbidden from seeing each other, but then we reconnected again at 16 and a half and became friends again. On I don't know what social, I mean, it was like LiveJournal or MySpace or maybe not MySpace. I don't know what it was, but it was online. We started like hanging out together, and our parents didn't know because we would be like, can I go to the mall? And we'd just like schedule meetup times or whatever. Um, but when we reconnected, when we were like 16 and a half, almost 17, I think, she had like, I should mention, she left the high school I went to during the second semester. So she had stopped going there. I found out when we were 16 and a half, she had gotten her GED at 14. She was living, like she had like lived on her own. She had been like a meth addict. Um, then she was like already back living with her parents. And so when we were 17, she was like, you need to meet this person. You need to meet this person. Um, who I'm careful talking about because he's a psycho. And um yeah, but um that is the person. Like she was like taken out of my life at 14. Like she just kind of cut me off. She went and all this crazy stuff happened to her. And then she like we reconnected at almost 17. And then she one day's like, you really need to meet my best friend. You really need to meet my best friend. And I was like, okay. She's like, he just broke up with his girlfriend 2 days ago. And I was like, okay. So, and she's like, oh, and you're also going to meet my boyfriend, who I had heard a lot about. So we go over to her parents' house. Her parents weren't home. Um, it was bizarre because they were never home. And she seemed to just have like a very adult life. Um, and she told me, but here's the thing, he's 20 and he thinks I'm 20. And I'm like, what? Like, we're both 17. What do you mean? And she's like, well, I dated him before and, he thinks I'm like 21 or something, but just like, don't tell him. And I'm like, how long ago did you date him? And she's like, well, like when I was like 14, but he thought I was 18. And I was like, okay, so you lied about it? And she's like, yeah, I lied about it. And I'm like, okay. So I met this guy, met her boyfriend who happened to be like 34 years old. And yeah, and like dude would look like like, don't try to judge, but like the guy was like a meth head, looking like missing teeth, like his half his face was like drooping, like I don't think he looked more like 40 than 34. But she's like, yeah, my parents love him, they approve of him, they want us to get married. And like, honestly, I really have just been suspecting for a while now that she was put into my path for a reason, and that she was under her own stuff. Because what parents would be cool with their 17-year-old daughter dating like a 35, 34-year-old man? And they lived in a very rich neighborhood. They had a lot of money. They were very like white collar, like fancy house, like fancy people. Like I just didn't understand like why they were never home, but also why they'd be okay with it. Like just their personalities, along with like this man that she was dating. And like, I don't know, it was just super weird. And so I met this other guy, the guy she was talking about, and that is the person that I dated for a while and then ended up getting married to. Um, and that ended 6 years ago. No, seven, no, eight, about 8 years ago. And that was an extremely abusive, horrible situation. And yeah, so she was in my life, and then in my life again, and then introduced me to him. And I'm just hesitant to say anything else about him because,
Okay.
yeah, he stalked and filmed and has harassed me and slashed tires and everything. And I don't want to egg him on to leave Arizona to come to where I am. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's one thing that people will comment sometimes on videos and they'll be like, why doesn't the person just say the names? And I'm like, do you realize that everybody that could potentially help hasn't and doesn't? Like, you don't think these people have reached out? Like, all that they're doing sometimes, I know it's appropriate. Sometimes you can say names, especially if you're ready to, if the circumstances keep you safe. There's been a lot of people that have talked about names, but there's also instances where it puts you in danger to do that.
Hmm.
It's more of a risk than a reward. Very rarely is there, somebody that might be watching online that could take care of it right whenever they hear it. It's good for people to be aware of stuff, but we also have to make sure that the person speaking is safe being able to disclose stuff. And I think that's a perfect way to do it, to share a story about the person, but not put yourself in danger to disclose about it by, revealing who it is.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry you went through that. It's just like one thing after another. And again, like looking back, you can, like you said, you can see how people were put into your path for a reason and introduced you to different people that again probably seem very synchronistic, like, oh, like this is wonderful. I made this friend and it led to this, like everything's working out for me so good, and then you look back and it's like, gosh, I was introduced to a handler who introduced me to another handler, who ended up
Yep.
being my husband, basically. And I'm so happy that you got out of that. So many people don't. A lot of people just live in that toxicity forever, especially with upbringings like you have. It's very hard to get away. That's what people don't realize. Like there really is every effort and method put in place to like make sure that you're almost living in a Truman Show setup to where you're going through life thinking that you're making all your own decisions, and like everywhere you go there's somebody at the coffee shop there ready to meet you. There's a job interview that somebody's overseeing you whenever you get hired, and you have no idea that they're there to like monitor and watch you. It's everywhere.
Hmm.
Somebody's life who goes through this. So how did you, once you got out of that relationship, what happened next in your life? Did you sort of did you start to your like a healing journey, or was there more sort of um I guess, obstacles in the way before you got there?
Well, it was complicated. I had started therapy. So before I left that relationship, I found this incredible therapist and I started therapy with her. And she, I remember the first session I sat down and I said, my marriage is falling apart and it's all my fault. I'm a horrible person and it has to be all me because I need help. And she was like, okay, tell me about this. And she later explained to me that whenever someone comes into therapy and is desperate and saying that their marriage is falling apart because of them, they're usually with a narcissist. And I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what was going on. I was feeling like I was having a constant psychotic breakdown. Um, it was just like super, super bad. And after I left that relationship, like 6 months after I started therapy, um, I continued therapy. And it really was a healing journey, but um, it was rocky. I fell into some situations. Like I had gone from being 17 to being in a very serious long-term relationship. And so I was trying to have a social life and go out and go to the pool hall and talk to people and get to know other people. And like it was chaotic, but ultimately it was good. Um because I kept seeing her, I kept working on myself. Um I mean, there were things that happened, but ultimately I was focusing on healing. Um there was a really bad incident with that with the person I had been married to after the divorce, where I was attacked in my car. Um but other than that, and that was kind of a setback. But I continued on my healing and focusing on myself and trying to figure out where everything went wrong and why I was in the situations I was repeatedly in and why I was feeling the way I was feeling and what was really going on. And that's when I really hunkered down and tried to figure out what was going on. And I learned how to be alone. I learned how to be okay with that. Um, and then like I really got good at having boundaries and I got really good at recognizing what I wanted. And then I tried to, it's kind of cheesy, but I kind of tried to manifest
Right.
like well, okay, I mean I did. Every night before I went to bed, I imagined what it would feel like to have the best, the most amazing love, exactly what I wanted and how I wanted to feel around someone and how I wanted to experience relationship and the type of person. And I imagined sending it out into the universe and being like, okay, universe, either you're gonna do it or you're not, because never again. And then 6 months later, after I started doing that, I met my now fiance, and
Aw.
he's the most amazing person in the world that I've ever met. So yeah.
Oh, look how you light up whenever you
Happy.
talk about him. That's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm kind of a dork, but
Love is the
no,
best, isn't it? It's so
yeah,
like you find somebody like a healthy love, like there's nothing like healthy love.
there's not. It's amazing, and I could go on forever. It's been almost 5 years, and like
Mhm.
I'm just crazy about him, and he's like the most amazing, like kind person that like I love him. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure he loves you just as much. You guys are so cute together. I've seen pictures.
Thank you. Yes.
So when did you, I know that he has been a part of your healing journey. So talk about maybe like assembling the like MK Ultra piece and like how that knowledge came into your vocabulary and how you started to I guess remember that part. Because I'm sure like whenever you were going to therapy after your marriage, you didn't have all the memories from childhood. You were trying to heal from the marriage, right? Versus like
Mhm.
your whole life. So when did the other piece of recognizing what your life was come uh into your I guess vocabulary. I guess that's the best
Yeah.
word because you probably didn't have terminology for like those things whenever, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. So when I met my fiance, like after a while I started opening up about like the things that happened to me growing up, like with my dad and like the groups and all these weird things. And like I had remembered so much, but like none of it made sense. And he was like, I remember one time, like he was like, have you ever heard of like MK Ultra? And I was like, what's that? And he was like, it sounds a lot like this thing called MK Ultra, like, and he I don't know, like he just like did a search online and like he started showing me, and I was like jaw on the floor. I was like, are you like, what? How have I never heard about this? Like, how did I not know like any of this stuff existed? Um, because like when I was living through it, it doesn't feel like it's like some big conspiracy because I'm living through it. Like, and MK Ultra was like very clearly like and it still is like a big conspiracy to a lot of people. So I started doing like some really deep diving research. Um, once I have a target, I'm a really good internet sleuth usually, not always, but usually. Um, and my fiance has been through like some really like crazy experiences himself. So when he was researching the things he's been through, um, a lot of like the websites and like the archive sites or whatever has information on his experiences had a lot about MK Ultra. So he knew about that stuff when he met me by way of like his own research into the stuff that happened to him. And like it was like this really interesting like way of finding out. He was like, no way, like that sounds so much like it. And like I researched it and it was like that is literally like the type of stuff. So that's kind of like what started it all.
Wow. And so how
Yeah.
have you in this time, like how has this love impacted your healing? And what else have you done to help assist getting you from where you were? You know, like I think it's so incredible whenever I listen to some of these stories to hear where somebody like you started. Like I cannot picture you like taking shit from anybody, you know, and like because you are such a warrior now. And I think it's so freaking amazing, like your transformation of who the person that you used to be was and who the woman that you are today is and how like I said in the intro, like you're a freaking warrior. Like the second that somebody's getting picked on, you're there like, hello, like F you know, like I got this
Yeah.
person's back and like you better leave, you know, and I love that about you. And it seems so different than like the person that you were, which was somebody that seems very vulnerable, didn't know what narcissistic abuse was or really any type of abuse. Like it's all you knew. So how would you have known that it was bad? Like, you know, it doesn't feel good, but like, how do you break
Yeah.
something if you're unaware of what these things are and you've been living it since you were born, basically, you know? So what helped you get to where you are today?
Well, like I was like super vulnerable, but I was also incredibly angry. Like anger was the safer emotion for me for a very long time. Like, and it helped me keep myself safe. So, like, I mean, I was just a hot mess for a long time, like, just reactive and like not great functioning. But like I functioned, but like it was just a rough go. Um, and the having such an amazing support and like I love him so much. Oh my God. He's like upstairs and I'm like, oh my God.
I love it so much. I know how you feel.
It's amazing. I'm glad you get to feel it too. Um, but it's like I don't know, just being like respected as a human being and like being allowed to like feel how I'm feel like a lot of it is just like like basic kindness and respect goes a long way and like being loved but like actually loved and loving that person back like gave me something to finally like hold on to like someone I knew for sure like love and like who loves and respects me and I love and respect them and like we're not like going anywhere and like he's like solid like having something solid like that just like gave me something to be like okay like basically like what is that like Maslow's hierarchy of needs or something like that like just like having safety as like the bottom level like it was like my whole life I have not had that like just to be feeling safe met so like feeling safe is really I think what I needed and then like once I felt safe in my surroundings and like emotionally I was able to really like just continue learning what I had learned from all the because like that the last therapist I had like she wasn't my only therapist she wasn't my like I continued things online like I did groups like I've done research like there are lots of really good books um and like a lot of like self-reflection a lot of like if I mess up like taking a step back and reevaluating like what caused this like identifying learning my what my triggers are learning the roots of my triggers like shame and embarrassment or like shame is a really big one that I've struggled with because like they say like shame is made up of like rage and I can't or sorry it's shame no rage is caused by embarrassment and shame or shame and fear I can't remember mixed together so like I started thinking of it that way like if I'm like getting really if I would get really really angry like just taking a step back finding where the fear was from finding where you know the embarrassment was from and then like I just have been I just spent a long time like really like not attaching to my emotions, walking them back, looking at where they came from, finding the root of the behavior that I didn't like, and like finding where that came from, where it originated from childhood or from like traumas or anything, and like processing it. And like the more I've done that over the years and having someone who's just like loves me to death, regardless of if like I get kind of bitchy sometimes or like, you know, because I'm everyone's human, but like um it doesn't really happen anymore, but like, you know, just someone who like will sit with you and is like, okay, like what happened? Like talk to me and like being able to just talk to someone who like is just kind and patient has really changed my life. So, yeah.
I love that. It is so powerful. I think we take for, not we, as in you, because you didn't have that growing up, but people who had stability growing up take it for granted, I think, because that's all that they knew and don't realize like how different a childhood can be without those healthy boundaries with parents and without parents doing everything to protect you and having that stability and that safety. Like when you're constantly always feeling unsafe, that is such a horrible feeling, and like that is so important to have that in somebody's life. What were some of the things that he did, like for people watching who are, if they have a spouse that has gone through something, if they have a friend, a family member, or even if they're just like advocating and like want to listen and like be there for survivors, like what are some things that your partner specifically did really well that helped you like trust him and helped you feel comfortable and safe that maybe other people can like throw in their toolbox and be able to utilize?
I like that term toolbox. I use that one too. It's pretty astounding for him because like he didn't grow up in a stable or safe household either. So like he's amazing to me. But I guess the things that really helped were like, hmm, um, trying to think of like like how to put it into words. I guess just like he always understood that like from the beginning that like behavior is communication. Um, he went to school to be a teacher and like actually was a special education teacher and worked with special needs adults. So like he had to take all the classes and like he said like universally like people don't understand that behavior is communication. So like when I would be like really grumpy or like just like, you know, for example, like we go to the grocery store and like I swipe the card and there's something wrong with the bank account and it's declined, like I would like have a panic attack like in the car because like the embarrassment like would just like I would just have like a I would just like freak out and I was like no one talk to me because like I'm just like freaking out right now and like I'm so upset. Um, just like as an example, but like he has always like understood that like what's going on the outside doesn't necessarily represent what's going on the inside. And I think just having someone who's patient enough to just sit and like wait, like sit with me instead of constantly trying to fix it, like has made the world of difference. Like instead of like trying to like fix it or getting like reactionary to my emotional reaction to something, because everyone has, emotional reactions. We're all human, but like having someone who just sits with you and is like I'm so sorry you're going through this. Like I want you to know I love you anyways. And like do you want to talk about this right now or you just want me to sit here? And even if it was like I was like struggling and I'd be like, just sit there. Like, because like I was trying to like center myself. Like that made the like a world of difference, I think, is what I would sum it up to be.
That's huge. Just like creating space instead of, like you said, reacting and like participating in maybe the panic or, like matching energy, just sort of keeping calm and being like, I'm just gonna be a pillar for you. Like, just know I'm here. You can lean on me if you want. You don't have to, but like, just know that I'm here. I'm not going
Yeah.
any. Yeah, that is so sweet. And so
Yeah.
let's talk about going public and like how this decision came. How did your partner
Yes.
tie into it? And like, how has that support like sort of transferred over into these other decisions that you've made about what you're going to do with your story?
So a few years ago now, I decided I wanted to say something like about Randy Lehrman, that DJ in California who trafficked me. And I made a few videos. And at the time, he had like a Facebook and Instagram that was public, like everything. And I had made like a mini video, this me like sitting in my room, like talking to the camera. And I planned on making, and then or later that night, I think it was that night, I was like, I'm going to go live on Instagram. And I guess he had gotten wind. I think I might have like tagged him because it was on Facebook. So when I went live and I had like posted on Facebook, like going live tonight to talk more about this, blah, blah, blah. So I go live on Instagram and like Randy himself had clearly made an account and was like writing in the comments as I was like talking live. And he was saying like, you know, things like, well, did you ever see his face? How do you know if you never saw his face? And it's like, I saw your face. Like, you don't remember, like, you wanted me to go on Cam Frog all the time. Like, we were on video together. Like, I saw you a few times in person. Like, I haven't forgotten all that. But like, it was very clearly him because it was like this brand new account with like fish. I think it was like reefer fish or some weird thing. And like, all of his stuff had been shut down. Like he deleted his Facebook. He made all of his stuff private, like that same night, like disappeared from the internet publicly, like on the platforms. And like,
Were you getting a
you know,
response from people too? Like, were a lot of people jumping on it and commenting? And no, he
no,
just
like,
tagged you because you tagged them.
mm-hmm.
You go,
And
girl. That is so bold.
things, I was like, and like, because like it was like, what are you gonna do? Like, sue me? Like, I don't like sue me. Like,
They
in
never
the thing,
do.
they never do because they know they know that what they did.
Yep.
And it was like that random account that was obviously him, and like I think a few other people watched it. And I was like, okay, it feels good, like I got this out. Um, if like I think it got like 3 views or something, which is fine because like I have a very small circle in general, so I didn't expect it to go anywhere. And then I like kind of like internally freaked out, like, oh my God, like I just told everyone because like it was on Facebook, it was on Instagram, like my childhood friend saw it, like her parents saw it, like everyone saw it. And I'm like, it was like a shame reaction, like, what did I just tell everyone? Because like that was still like a very hard reaction, like an insta reaction, like of shame, like it was my fault because like I didn't say anything. Um, and I dealt with it and processed it. And like my fiance was super, super supportive of me the whole way through. Like if you want to press on with this, like I support you. If you don't want to press on with it, I support you. And like I think there were several months went by and I made another video. Like it was like I tried again to put myself out there. And I talked a little bit more in depth about it. Um, talked about Mike. Because I did run into Mike, which he clearly hadn't planned for when I was like 17 and worked at a restaurant. Um, but anyways, like I made another video and then I kind of like went silent for a while because the videos like didn't get any views. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to pursue this anyways. Um, what, and I was like, I'm not even going to go to the arena of my dad because how do I even talk about that? Like that is like a whole beast that seems impossible to tackle, let alone talk about publicly because of everything it involves. Um, but then my fiance started posting on X about his experiences and like discovered himself that there was like an entire community and involving like UAP, UFO and everything. And like I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Like I didn't realize like Twitter X like has like communities, and he's like, it feels like the old internet, like the way the internet used to be.
It does.
And like it is. And I was like, what? Okay, like I'll try this. So I kind of like made a few posts here and there, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. Because like I had been on TikTok about some other incidents that have happened that like I don't know like if I'm gonna go into that, but um I had started out on there and it kind of got weird because just it was just I don't know, it just didn't really get very far. And then I decided to make like this post on X that was like
And this was
talking
very, very
about,
recent.
yeah, it's very recent, like a month ago. Um, and I talked about my dad and MK Ultra and Mena. And it like blew up. Like like it just I had to turn my phone off in order to go to sleep because like it was like going off back to back for hours with notifications. And like I started seeing things that like people were writing like entire articles on it and um doing all sorts of things with it. And then when I woke up the next morning, it had like over 1 million views, like 2 million, I think. And like I just like I freaked out because it was like I don't know if I want this. I went from having like maybe, you know, on TikTok it's kind of different. Like your video gets like 1,000 views, but like 5 comments. Um, but like this was like a whole different beast. There were like articles in different languages, like posts in different languages, like
Thousands
people were
of
like
comments.
thousands of comments. Yeah, like it was like I don't know if I want this level of attention because like I don't know if I want to be known as like an MK Ultra girl. Like this is a lot more than I anticipated, so I deleted it. Um and I've just recently, like after sharing other posts that, you know, stayed relatively like a normal amount or like I know a decent amount of views or a decent amount of comments, like I've kind of decided after seeing like the survivor community on X come together, like come even more together and like things moving forward and people are talking and like the conversations seem to be like changing more and more online. Like it's like, okay, like I just feel like to I feel like I need to be a part of this because like what if so my whole thing has always been like it didn't really seem to fit in anywhere, like all these weird events I've been through. And it's like, well, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm like just putting things together that aren't there? And like a skill, like in like a toolbox kind of way that I like to use is checking the facts, like check just the facts, like just what you know, not opinion, just like what you know, to like bring yourself back to like, okay, but like this is reality. Like I know this and this and this. And it's like, so I know I'm not just, I don't know, not like it's like never that I thought I was faking it. It's just like I thought like, well, do I really like need to be on X saying this stuff? Or do I really need to be talking about this stuff? Or is it like it was like this internal battle, like, is this something I really want? And it's like ultimately it's like I know these things happened, like I know how I feel about them. I know how like it's going to be perceived probably. And I want to move forward anyways. And like, there are people that I see online that are drowning right now. Like, it's been getting more frequent on X, and it's like I can relate so hard. Like, and people, I don't think people understand like that, like the amount of like despair and suffering that you can go through after stuff like this, and understanding how the things work. It's like, for a survivor or not a survivor, like I like can't even imagine like the mental toll of like hearing all this all the time. Like like that's why like you're amazing to me, because like that's like a mental toll in itself. But like it just seems to be like a lot of people in the survivor community are like drowning and may not know that there's like another side to it. Like, you can get to another side. Like, and I just it just kind of like pushed me to be like, I'm just gonna put my story out there. I'm gonna tell it all, like all of it. And if there's stuff people like, it's like, well, maybe there are people who have been through just as many crazy things all at once that seem wildly different, but they're actually connected, or maybe they're not connected. But like, I know that before I went public, I tried to find other people that went through similar things, like, but more on like the more specific end of it, like specifically the group of things I went through. And I couldn't find it. But I mean, it's kind of hard to search for that, you know?
So surprising
Um,
too.
yeah, like it's like some like people seem to go through some of the things but not the others, and it was like, why did I go through these things and these things and these things? So it's like, and I did find a few people who seem to have similar stories, but they never wrote me back, which is fine. But it kind of jetted me forward, and I was like, you know what, then I'm gonna say something, because maybe there are people out there who are also feeling the same way, who have been through an equal amount of crazy stuff, and maybe we can all kind of just expose it and put it out there. And I want to be part of the conversation. So, yeah.
You're so brave and courageous. Like I think it's amazing when, somebody can put themselves out there. Like you're telling like really horrible things. This doesn't change your past or like necessarily even benefit you. If anything, like it can put you at risk. Like there's a lot of different things, activate programming that might be suppressed that like the no speak programming and just there's so many different ways that this could like impact you negatively, but like somehow you and others come to this conclusion of how much bigger it is than you and that you're not just speaking about your story because again like it's not easy, like who wants to talk about the horrible things that they went through, especially like to be indulged with it, like we are, like we're all like in this like trying to create a movement and like get somewhere with it finally, like by holding hands and like coming together, and I agree with you, like that keeps me going a lot of times is like seeing somebody like you going out there and I'm like I'm doing what everybody should be doing in my shoes, like everybody that hasn't gone through it should be doing something to help benefit the people that did, like standing by them or elevating their stories, following them on social media, buying their books, whatever it is.
Hmm.
It's our responsibility to stand by all of you. Like I don't think anything that I do is special. I just think a lot of people have lost touch with like having empathy and like they're put in fear from the sliding scale of mind control of what the TV does and even going through school where they tell you to like sit down and shut up. Like we've all been indoctrinated to certain degrees, whether or not it was the degree that you went through or just going to school and having, years and years of, social conditioning to sort of make you more compliant and quiet and like scared to take a risk or to stand out, but it's like there's still kids going through this. And
Hmm.
that's why it's important that we talk about it because it's happening everywhere, and a lot of people want to look away. I understand it's not safe for everybody to talk about it, and I don't encourage people to just go talk about it if they're not ready or if it makes them unsafe. So I'm not putting people down who like aren't doing something about it because not everybody can, you know, but I think it's like it's our duty to share and elevate and like educate each other on this because we need to understand it's still happening and that, you know, the way that we heal as a group is by sharing. That's like how we build all of our most intimate relationships. Like, sure, if you meet somebody at first, it's really fun to date somebody at first and like you're your best self, you're wearing makeup and like your best clothes every time, you know, and as you get deeper into a close loving relationship, like those layers start to come off. The person eventually will see you without makeup. They'll see you in clothes that you wouldn't normally go out in. They'll see you when you're grouchy. They'll see you when you're really tired, when you like snap and react, you know, and I think there's a beauty about like putting all of our shit on the table and being like, hey, this is me, you know, this is me and like, can we do this together? Like you dump your shit down and like, let's look at this and like sort through it. So that way all of our stuff can like work together. That's how we bond. And like, we're so disconnected from that because the internet makes us feel like we have to be perfect. And there's so
Yep.
much resistance to like being human. Like we've all been through shit. Like again, might not have been the degree that you did, but even people who have just minor traumas in their life or like they went through a divorce whenever they grew up that impacted them, like you don't see people talk about that stuff online very much. And I think that's why we have such a hard time healing as a society because we're not coming together around the things that like actually bond us and move us forward as humans. Like we're bonding over fake conversations, surface level conversations, filtered photos, filtered conversations. And I just think it's amazing that somehow you found it within yourself to like want to be a part of change, understanding that it would be really difficult for you to talk about this stuff, understanding that there could be repercussions of some kind, you know, whether that's just internal backlash of like, oh, why should I have shared that, you know, and because that's uncomfortable. But I really want to commend you because I think your journey's amazing. Like hearing where you were, I could never ever imagine you. Like nobody would ever guess meeting you today what you've been through. You are just like this bright light, this bold warrior. Like you put people in their place, you stand up for what's right. I noticed that on your post. I love how you said stick to the facts. Like your posts are very much like that. You know, they're not like these
Mm.
emotional outbursts. Like you're really good with like encapsulating empathy with fact and like presenting that to people and being like, this is just what it is, take it or leave it. Like, here's what everything is, you know? And I think that you've already made such a big impact. And I really feel like you have such a big mission in this movement and that your story is important and that you deciding to take this opportunity to speak out is going to help so many people. I really feel like you have this big piece of the puzzle that people are going to, just like how you had those moments sort of connect, like hearing things from other people, like you now get to pass that torch on to others and like be that puzzle piece for people to be like, oh my gosh, she just named this location, or like that happened to me. I don't feel alone anymore, you know? So I just want to commend
Mhm.
you for that because I know that had to have been like a decision that you probably wrestled with for a while, you know, and I think it's really beautiful that you decided that this is bigger than you and that you wanted to share it, knowing that it could benefit people, knowing that it could educate people. And you're such an eloquent speaker. Like I would have never guessed that this is your first time like, really sharing it on this level because you're so good at like articulating what you went through.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. That like I'm trying, I'm learning how to like be able to accept compliments because like I've always been like, oh my God, I don't know how to accept compliments. But like no, like that means a lot because like that means that like, it's like you and I have like talked about it a little bit, like it's hard like to try to not it's hard to not try to come across a certain way like online or like on a podcast or like an interview, and it's really difficult. It's like everyone's like just be yourself, but it's like yeah, but like there's still that instinct to like I need to come across a certain way, and it's like so I've tried to like let go of that need to come across a certain way and just like be myself. So like that really means a lot that like that's like okay, cool, so I'm coming across like as like myself instead of like it's like I'm just glad to like it feels good to hear it, and like thank you. So
And it gives me courage.
yeah.
Like I love seeing, like I can totally tell just through even your posts, like you got boundaries, like you know how to protect yourself now. You know when a perpetrator's like, even through one message, like you can point somebody out and be like, that's not right. Like you
Mhm.
see how far you've come in your journey through these interactions that you have and like through watching you use your voice. And it's so inspirational. And like I hope other people take inspiration from what you said too, because like how you said, there are a lot of people who just feel so hopeless. They feel like they're not worthy of love, that there's nothing else other than pain and suffering. And of course, like healing isn't just this one day event, like it's going to be a long time, maybe a lifetime of healing. But I love that your story has these elements of it where, you went through such depravity and despair as a child, and then overcame all of that and were able to find a healthy love. We're able to understand and learn these really tactile elements of like learning about other people, like psychopathy and narcissism, and understanding that so you can, defend yourself against things in the world that are meant to hurt you or that come in your path and might veer you off the progress that you've made. It gives me a lot of hope seeing that, and I think that that's something that, again, that these stories are really amazing to share, because for somebody to go from where they were to being able to be on a podcast and like share these things and be able to like say it confidently, to be who you are doing it, like that's a whole journey in itself with healing. And it's got to be pretty cool too for you to look back and be like, holy shit, like look how far I came.
Yeah, no, it's I've definitely like I had a dark night, a little mini dark night of the soul after that initial post went viral because I was like, oh my God. And there was like a lot of kickback, like a lot of pushback internally. Like I feel like that was, but like my style has always been like if I notice that like there's a trigger happening, or if I notice that something is being like, activated, I guess you would say, like from things that are in there, like I've kind of just been no, like no more, like, and I just kind of roll with it, and it sucks sometimes. It really, really sucks sometimes, and sometimes it's just like it's gonna take a few days, and I'm gonna just roller coaster it out, and like just do a lot of self-care, and like, you know my fiance is like awesome. Like if I just need like a million hugs during the day, he's like, you get a million hugs during the day, like it doesn't even matter. So like it was rough, but like it taught me a lot about like my boundaries online, and like being able to recognize more, and like it's an ongoing process, but um so I just appreciate it, and I'm really happy that I got the opportunity, and I'm doing this. So yeah.
Oh, you're amazing. Is there any other parts of your story that you wanted to share today that you didn't get to, or anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Um, Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I think I can't think of any off the top of my head. So
Okay.
yeah.
You shared a lot today. I know we've been talking for a while, and this is, can be energetically draining. But this was a really beautiful conversation just to see like where you started to where you are. I think you're an absolute inspiration. I think you're a badass. I think you're a warrior. You encourage me. You give me motivation and inspiration. I know a lot of people look to you like a leader in our community, on X, and it's really neat just to see the light that you've became, and that like you didn't have that growing up a lot, like you were with people that always tried to dim your light and you never let them. And now you get to hold that candle up when everybody else is like, the world's so dark. You're like, no, it's not. Look, there's a light, So I love that. I think you're such a bright light, and you have just this beautiful spirit and energy about you. And I'd love for people to connect with you. You have awesome things that you post. Your Twitter is very inspirational. I don't know if you want to share your YouTube or not, but I'd love for you to share like where people can connect with and support you.
Oh yeah. So my Twitter is X is Stellar Fox 16, and yeah, it's like Stellar Fox 16. And the YouTube, oh, it's on my phone. I'm okay with sharing it. I just can't remember what it is. I think it's Katie Rose 33. Yeah, there it is. Katie Rose 33. And then that one, like on the far right, the audio is completely messed up. I have no idea what happened. That was like that was like when I was first making videos, and I was just like, ah, screw it, I'm just gonna make like one long video. But the audio is horrible, so I suggest turning off the video halfway through, because like but yeah, those are the places I post now.
And I encourage you guys, I always say, like one of the best ways that you can help is supporting survivors. I think a lot of us that haven't gone through this, like actually do want to do a lot. And it's really easy I felt like this. I felt really overwhelmed with, well, what do I do now that I know this? Like I work full time. I have all these things going on in my life. Like, how am I supposed to save the world? It's like you carry a weight on your shoulder, like even just learning about this if you haven't been through it. And I always say like one of the best and easiest things that you can do, and it's free, is to just simply go follow people that are on the show and get eyes on them. Like Katie is risking a lot coming out and sharing all of this. Like every survivor does. They risk their entire livelihood, they risk their lives, they risk a lot on behalf of wanting to help other people. And that can result sometimes in retaliation, bullying, trolling. It doesn't always have to be like a direct physical attack. Like I've gotten overwhelmed with people in cults from guests that I've interviewed that just come and like bombard my YouTube page or my Twitter page, just all these people from the family or the network just all come out. And so even just that can be very overwhelming, knowing that you could get peppered with, trolls and bots and all these things that come and try to discredit you. So one of the best things I think that we should all do is like be the army for survivors. Like go follow Katie on Twitter. It doesn't cost you anything. When her followers go up, and it lets people know when they visit her pages that like, hey, there's people that have eyes on her. Like you better not try shit, because like we're watching her, and like we care about her, and like you're not going to get away with it. That I think is like the easiest and best thing that we can ever do, and like she puts out videos. Like it's really awesome too when people who have gone through things create free videos that we can just go watch. I think that that's like a really powerful tool, and it's again free. Like listen on your way to work for a couple days. It's not Her videos aren't too long. Like there's a lot of information in it. Her name's Katie Rose 33. I'm going to have that in the show notes. And then again on Twitter, it's Stellar Fox 16. And just go keep up with her, appreciate her, share her content, comment on it. Like if you guys catch bullies on her page, like stick up for her. Like that stuff doesn't cost us anything, and it's such a big deal. Like those little things I've noticed sometimes mean more than the really big things that we can do. Of course, like all of us, I'm sure, would love to quit what we're doing and just devote full time to like saving the world and saving the children, but I know not everybody can. So like just go follow her on Twitter, and I think the community is so awesome on Twitter. I never used to use Twitter until like the last like year and a half or so. I've been using it more, and I'm like, why have I not known that there's like
Yep.
this entire survivor community? Like everybody's on Twitter. I'm like looking everywhere else, and I'm like, here they are. They're all on Twitter. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so honored and grateful that you came on, Katie. And like it's such a blessing to know you. I love like how fast I felt connected to you, and like I see your light shining, girl. Everybody does. Like you are impossible to miss, and you're gonna blind
Thank
people
you.
to see it, but like, keep freaking shining. And just thank you so much for coming on and for sharing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's not, I look forward to seeing it. So yeah.
Yes. And anytime you want to come back on, if there's other things you want to talk about, it'd even be fun to have like you and your partner on if you'd want to, and talk about like relationships and stuff. Like that would even be cool.
That
So
would be cool.
you guys have a really beautiful love. You don't, I think that too would be a cool dynamic. So if you guys ever wanted to come on, or if you want to come back on, open invitation to anytime, your family. And I appreciate you again sharing, and you guys, thank you so much for listening and for supporting. I'll have Katie's information down below in the show notes. They turn into hyperlinks on no matter what platform you're on. So you just scroll down, click, it'll take you right to the website. No work. You don't even have to copy and paste it. So again, that's something free that you can do, costs nothing. Super easy. Go keep up with Katie. Go support her. I'll have all of my links in the show notes to you guys. I really appreciate you guys. I love you with all my heart. Can't wait to see you guys next week. God bless you, and we will see you next time.